Well, thank you very much for inviting me, and I really want to congratulate the MBDA. This is a very long hope for development that someone would get to work doing this, right? Why? Well, in my job, almost every day, I hear from desperate, frustrated people, patients, parents, spouses, relatives. They ask me, why is it taking so long? It's going to be too late for... How can you not tell if the drug is working? How can that be that you just can't tell? Why can't you just approve it now? And you know this, you hear this in the paper too. What do you mean this side effect was a complete surprise? Some desperate side effect that we didn't know about, right? And it's really hard to explain to them that despite all the wonderful science we have, we don't have the tools to do these things that are most important to them. Unfortunately, a lot of the clinical trials today to test new drugs would be completely familiar to someone who did them 50 years ago. They aren't guided by the sophisticated genetic, proteomic, imaging, and other technologies that are now available and the subject of this initiative. And if one of these tools is needed, first it may take a year or two to stop and to standardize these measurements so that you can apply them in the trial. And generally speaking, developers just don't have that long to wait, and so they go ahead without, and these tools don't get developed. And then I'm asked the questions by these patients, you know, why can't you tell me earlier? Why couldn't you tell that my child wasn't responding, and so on. So this is the problem that's trying to be addressed, to bring the fruit of modern science to these desperate needs that we have. But it isn't FDA's job to standardize measurements. Our resources are stretched as it is, and we plan to collaborate very fully with this group. But and just this week, we issued our final draft guidance, which is called Qualifying Drug Development Tools, something we've worked on with the European Medicine Agency. And it talks about what is the roadmap to getting a biomarker to the level of reliability. It can be used for regulatory decisions of various kinds in clinical trials. And people have always asked us about that. Now, it doesn't lay out the standards because they're not developed yet, all right? But it does provide the roadmap of a path. And in fact, we have paired it with the qualification of a consortium has qualified some patient-reported outcomes for lung disease, for COPD exacerbations that patients can record, and you can measure how, you know, if they're suddenly getting worse with their lung disease, something that's been very controversial over time. So that's not the kind of marker that we're talking about here, but it's one of the types of outcome measures that also need standardization. The NBDA is planning to drive this process forward for the genetic, proteomic, and so forth, those types of markers and the imaging markers. And frankly, given what you heard about the number of candidate biomarkers that are published every year, we don't need a pathway, we actually need a superhighway. And this is what will advance science in medicine. That's what I think people don't get the connection. It's, even though I'm a drug regulator, I love new drug development, diagnosis and understanding, that's the foundation of medicine. It is not treatment. That's the consequence of understanding what's going on. So if we need to apply these tools which allow us to understand the patient, what's going on with the patient, then we can select the right treatment, then we can monitor the treatment, and so forth. So the FDA will help in this effort in any way we can, because I think only if we get down this superhighway will I be able to answer those patients and those relatives. Thank you.